Okay, here we go. The first thing we need to make sure we know is the quadratic formula, as well as factoring, can only be done when your quadratic is in what's called standard form. This is what standard form looks like, and A, B, and C can be any number, positive or negative. Whole number or fraction, it does not matter. It has to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And I cannot stress that the order matters. Right? Your x squared term is always first, followed by the x term. Finally, at the end, at the caboose, is the constant, a number without any variables. It has to be in that order. If it's not in that order, everything's going to go south real fast. Make sure it's in this order and it's equal to 0. You can't leave anything on this right side. You've got to get it all onto one side. Once everything is on one side, then you're ready to figure out what your A, B, and C value is, just like we did in factoring. The only things that matter today is this A value, the B value, and the C value. We don't care about the x squareds and the x's. We just need to make sure in the right order. We'll only be looking at the numbers. So when I say what's the A value, you should just tell me a number, not x squared or an x, just the number. With these three numbers, we can find the solutions to any quadratic. So we're going to do this in pieces. The first step is being able to find what's called the discriminant. And it's not racist math, it's just called the discriminant, okay? So, let's do it. The discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So b to the power of 2 minus 4 times a times c. So you're going to be plugging in your b value for b, your a value for a, your c value for c. Your calculator will do most of the work, and you'll get an answer. Now this answer doesn't tell us the solutions, but it tells us what type of solutions we're going to get. There are three possibilities. Possibility number 1. If you plug this in your calculator and you get a negative number, that means that your quadratic has 2 imaginary solutions. If you get a negative number when doing this little formula, all that tells you is you have 2 negative solutions. And the reason that it is that way, if I draw you a little sketch of a quadratic, if you get a negative number, that means your graph probably looks something like this. Does that quadratic, that blue curve, ever touch the x-axis? No. It can't have a real solution if it doesn't touch the x-axis. Now, it still has imaginary solutions, but not real. The second thing that can happen is, this is rare, but sometimes the discriminant is equal to 0. This is rare. It doesn't always happen that often, but when it does, if your discriminant equals exactly 0, then that means you only have 1 solution. What does that look like? In visual form, here's what it looks like visually. It means your quadratic hits the x-axis, boop, and bounces away. It hits it just one time. If your discriminant is 0, that means our quadratic just hits the x-axis one little time and bounces away. Doesn't happen a lot, but it can. The last thing that can happen is your discriminant is a positive number. If you plug in this formula and you get a positive number, it means your quadratic is going to have 2 real solutions. What does that look like? If you have a quadratic that has a positive discriminant, it looks like this. Because how many times does this hit the x? 1 real time, 2 real times. 2 real solutions. So the discriminant doesn't actually find us the solution or solutions, but it tells us what kind we're going to have and how many to expect. So we're going to do this 4 times. 4 times. And our calculator does most of the job. The biggest place to make mistakes is just plugging in numbers wrong. So focus on what you're plugging in. Number 1. Number 1. Determine the number of solutions. We're not finding the solutions, we're figuring out how many and what types there are. So, number 1. You first check, is the quadratic equal to 0? Yes. Is it in order? Does it go x squared, x, and then normal number? Yes. So we can just figure out what a, b, and c is. What number is in front of this x squared? 1. Oop. Which means my a value is 1. My b value is, and my c value is 10. Now all we need to do is plug it into what's called the discriminant. And that discriminant is in the middle of your page. It is b squared minus 4ac. When we plug it into the calculator, we must make sure we hug everything we plug in into parentheses like it's our long-lost friend we haven't seen in many years. So when I plug in my b value, which is 7, I need to do what? Hug it. Boom. Hug. Squared. 7 squared minus 4, always a 4. The a value was what? Hug a 1. And the c value was? Hug it. Just like that. Now you take your calculator and we are going to type it in exactly as it appears. Pull up my calculator. Exactly as it appears. So turn that bad boy on. Clear it out. Hug your 7. Square it. Minus 4. Hug the 1. Hug the 10. Look everything over. Make sure it's exactly how you wrote it. Make sure your B, your A, and your C are in the right spots. Because I'm going to tell you, the biggest mistake that's made in this problem, in all of these problems, is people just put their numbers in the wrong spot. Make sure the B goes with B, A goes with A, C goes with C. Click enter, and you get 9. Yeah? We get 9. So this discriminant equals 9. That doesn't mean the quadratic's answer is 9, but if we look at our little chart, 9 is a positive number, which means what type of solution and how many solutions will this quadratic have? This guy right here. If it is positive, what happens? Positive means what? 2 real solutions. That's all we're doing. 2 real. Want to know another word for solutions in math? X-intercepts or zeros or roots. And I like writing roots because real roots, that just sounds good, doesn't it? At the double R, real roots. It's just better. But you can write 2 real zeros, 2 real solutions, 2 real x-intercepts, 2 real roots. All mean the same thing. And if you look in your notes too, I have all those words listed out. Roots, zeros, solutions, x-intercept. All those mean the same thing in math. I just like the word roots. It's a cool word. Roots. Good? Let's go again. Look at number 2. It's not equal to 0. Which means if I were to do A, B, C right now, it would be wrong. I can't do my A, B, C until it's equal to 0. What needs to move? The negative 4. We have to follow the same rules all equations need to follow. If I want to move my -4 or -4 to the left side, how do I move it?
You gotta solve it like an equation.
Yeah, solve it like an equation. How do I move the -4 over? Add 4, right? You do the opposite operation. The opposite of negative is positive. The opposite of minus is adding. So I'm going to add 4 to the right side, which means I have to add 4 to the left side. But let's just take a second.
There's no like terms.
There's no like terms. I can't add a 4 to an x squared. I can't add a 4 to a 4x. So what am I going to do with it? Put it at the end. And we're going to put this term at the end because it's your normal number. And where do the normal numbers always go in order? At the end. So I'm just going to write +4 over here. I'm not going to actually combine it with anything. I just got to toss it at the end. X squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. Because -4 plus 4 is 0. Yep, and that's what we want because remember we want it to equal 0. So that's good.
So basically that it's not.
We gotta make it a 0, yep. And sometimes it'll already be equal to 0. Sometimes you gotta move something. And you just need to make sure whatever you move, you put it in the right spot. Now we do everything like we did. What's the A value? 1. The B value is, and the C value is also 4. Our discriminant is B squared minus, do you remember? 4AC. Plug it in. Plug it in parentheses. Type it in your calculator. Plug in your B, plug in your A, plug in your C. Plug it in the calculator. Double, triple check that you are plugging it in exactly because I cannot stress the mistakes are made not because you guys do a great job of moving things, finding ABC, plugging it in on paper. You guys do it perfect. But then you type it in the calculator and one little mishap and it's wrong. Alright, put in your B. 4 squared. 4. A value is 1. C value is also 4. Type it all in and you get, I heard it like 3 places. 0. You get 0. 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. Which 4? There's 3 of them.
Oh, okay.
B was 4. The 4 is part of the formula. 1 was A. And C was also 4. So that's why we have so many 4s happening.
Okay, I'm good.
Equals 0. Yep. Who? We're plugging in the, not the red, what's under it. We're plugging in after we put in our number. When you have a discriminant equal to 0, it means what? Look at your little table up above. One real solution. Just one real root. One real root. Done. We didn't find the real root, but we know there's only one of them. Done. That's how you use a discriminant. So if you look in your table right above where the problems are, 3 things can happen. If the number you get is negative, it says 2 imaginary. If the number you get is 0, 1. And if it's a positive number, you get 2. Because it equals 0, 1. Yep. And again, having it equal 0 it's rare. It doesn't happen a lot, but it can. Just something good to know. Next.
Okay. Can we do anything right now? Or do we need to move over? Okay. What should we do to put this in the right format? Add to x, right? I did was write it in our nice format. If we have our 2x term, we want to put it in the middle, between x squared and our regular number.
Why wouldn't we put it at the end? If you put it at the end, what would happen to your A, B, and C values? The B and C would get what's it called?
Alright, so A is 1. What's B? B is 2. C is 5. So what's the discriminant again?
Say the discriminant.
I forgot. Oh. B squared minus 4ac is our discriminant. Okay, so we're just going to plug in b squared. Oops. Okay. Okay, put this in your calculator.
You say put the parentheses around the 2, right?
Do you know why that's a really important step? Want to do an experiment? Watch this. Type in -2 squared with no parentheses. -2 squared. What do you get? -4. Is -2 squared -4? No, -2 squared should be +4. Your calculator does order of operations wrong. So if your B value was ever a negative number, which it is a lot of the time, if you don't put it in parentheses, will your answer be correct? No. When it's a positive number, do the parentheses matter? No. But when it's negative, be careful. Type it in. 80.
Wait, even when I did put the parentheses, I still got the same answer.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get everyone to get the same answer.
So, this is the discriminant. So, it's always b squared minus 4ac. Our numbers we plug in come from A, B,
So then
this.
try and figure out what that is.
So we plug in.
Plug it in. You could use your
So
calculator.
A was
Plug
1.
it in. And
1. Our B was 2. And our C was 5. Yep. A, B, C. And we plug in your C. Put in
Hey, bud.
Alright, so I heard from a lot of people, we got -16, right?
-16?
Remember?
What
This
is
is
that?
right. So what does this mean?
This means two imaginary solutions, two imaginary roots.
It's quite an area.
Yeah.
Alright.
You want next? Uno más.
Same thing.
We do plus 2.
Plus 2
So far.
x plus 2x. So what should we get? What's the final?
We will do the discriminant, but we're going to do yeah, but do the discriminant like onto the side. I would erase that. We do it onto the side. Okay, you're going to be really small.
Okay, what's A?
3.
3. B is
Two.
C is 2. Okay. So, B squared minus what?
3, 4.
So plug it in.
Plug it in.
Before I write it out, try plugging it in yourself.
Do it.
See if you get the same thing.
Good. Plug it in. Plug it in. Plugged in. Nice.
Wait, when I was at the bathroom, I missed
Where do you think this person?
I was gone for 2 minutes.
Okay, calculate.
Make it 20.
What did you calculate?
Okay, 3.
Hey guys, did you guys plug this in? Hey, plug it in.
Negative 20.
20.
Should have had time to plug it in and get negative 20, which means what kind of solutions do we have?
2 advances. 2 advances.
2 imaginary.
So when you take the test, all you have to write is 2 imaginary.
Yes, if it asks you to use a discriminant, your answer is just saying how many solutions there are. Real or imaginary. Yep. Just like that.
Woo!
Hold on, wait, it's summer? Wait.
Slow. You have to imagine the writing before it actually appears. Imagine. Let me know when we're good, because the real deal happens shortly.
No. We're just getting warmed up.
This is semi-pros. Hey, here we go. Open it up. Now, write very neat. Not too big. You're gonna need the space. Before we do anything, we need to write down the whole quadratic formula. The discriminant is just an itsy-bitsy part of the whole entire formula. We need to write down the whole thing. So, most important thing you write today. Are you ready? Get out your best handwriting. It starts with x equals. Write it. X equals. We got x equals negative b. Don't forget the negative. X equals negative b. Plus or minus the square root. Yeah, you know it's not good when the square root's that long, but it is.
Evil.
X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Hey, look at that. What is that? That's what we just did. That's the discriminant. And just when you thought it was done, we got a plus or minus, we got negatives, we got a square root. Why not make it a fraction, right?
Oh, no.
All over
2.
2 times a. That is your quadratic formula. This is so important. If this class had a fantasy league, you'd be drafting this bad boy. That's how, like, remember when you thought you were all cool? You're like, oh, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Pythagorean theorem, ready? Remember that last year? That ain't got nothing on the quadratic. And this is like top 3 draft pick in all of mathematics. It's super helpful this year. So we are going to memorize this in time. That's your quadratic formula. This can solve any quadratic for any of its solutions. It works every time. It will never do you wrong. Factoring can't always work. Completing the square, another method, doesn't always work. This always works, every time. If there's any method to know, it's this one, because it could be your go-to that works every single time. What's nice, too, is part of it we already know how to do. This whole inside, that's just the discriminant. We already know how to do that. We just got to do the rest. So our first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the discriminant, just like we did before. We're going to figure out how many solutions there are. And at the same time, we're going to be solving part of the quadratic formula. So look at your quadratic. Is it equal to 0? Yeah, it's equal to 0. We still got to check for that, just like we always do. Now we need our A, B, and C. What is A? What is B? Say it. What is C? 3. A, B, C. A, B, C. Now, nothing new yet. The discriminant is the inside. B squared minus 4AC. Put in your B, hug it. 7 squared. Minus 4. Plug in your A, hug it. 2. Plug in your C. 3. Hug it.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know if you answered it already, but like, why do we have to put these
Like, why is it? The discriminant's formula is B squared minus 4AC. So B is always going to be what goes in first. I know, you wish it was ABC, right? But it's BAC. It's just that's the way it is. BAC, back. Baby back ribs. Did you type it in the calculator? That's why I'm standing here. It is. Type it in. You should get a 25. That's not good. You should get 25. This is our discriminant, which means what type of answer should we get? And how many? 2 real roots. 2 real roots. Now it's time to find those 2 real roots. So we need to finish off the rest of our quadratic formula. We did this highlighted part. We just found out that everything in this square root is going to be 25. We just did that. We just got to do the rest. Okay, so here we go. X equals, what's my B value? Okay, so don't forget the negative. Put your negative. Anything we put in parentheses. Plug in your 7. Now we got plus or minus. Okay, I'm just following my formula and plugging things in. What was this whole inside equal to? 25. So we're just going to write the square root of 25. And it's all over 2 times A. 2 times, what's my A value? 2. Okay, we're all plugged in. All plugged in. I wish we could, but we can't. Calculator can't do plus or minus. It just can't. I'm sorry. Now grab your bucket and your mop, and it's time to clean it up. It is part of the quadratic formula. See it? Negative B. So it's always going to have that negative out front every time. We got to clean some stuff up. Like, first off, what is negative times 7? There's a 1 here. What's negative 1 times 7? Yeah, so we're just going to clean this up. X equals, that's just negative 7. What's the square root of 25? Just 5, so plus or minus 5. And on the bottom we got 2 times 2, which is 4. Almost. All we got to do is split these bad boys up. Okay? Watch. We're going to split them up. X equals, we're going to get the 7, negative 7 of 4, and we're going to get the 5 of 4. Negative 7 over 4 plus or minus 5 over 4. So, all we need now, we have one more step, and our calculator can do all the rest for us. We need to find our two real solutions. There's two answers. We're going to pull up our calculator because we have two things that need to happen. We have to first do negative 7 fourths plus 5 fourths. That gives us one answer by adding. And then we have to do negative 7 over 4 minus 5 fourths. And that will give us our two answers. Now, luckily for us, I'm going to show you the ultimate cheat. We're going to write them as fractions. Okay, watch this. If I can turn this on. Yay. Okay, watch. I'm going to show you the fraction cheat. Everyone, click alpha. See the green button? Alpha. When you click it, you should see a flashing A. This is how you do fractions in our calculator the easy way. Once the A is flashing, two buttons above this is a button that says y equals. You click that and you get a little tiny menu. This is your fraction menu. We want the n over d. That means a normal fraction. You click enter on it. And see how you have a nice little fraction ready to fill out? So we're going to type in negative 7. Click the down arrow. Type in your 4. So here's negative 7 fourths. I gotta click the over arrow, so I'm back in normal land. Let's call it. We're gonna call it normal land. And I want to do what first? Add. Plus. Again, alpha y equals. Select my fraction. And I'm gonna type in 5 over 4. Negative 7 fourths plus 5 fourths. Click enter and you get negative 1/2. That's the first answer. Now watch this. I'll save you a lifetime of seconds. Ready? If you click up and go highlight this problem, because we're going to have to type the whole thing in again, aren't we? Because we have to do minus next, right? But if you go up, highlight it, and click enter, it brings it down for you. So you don't have to retype it all in. Because all we need to do is change this plus to a. So you click the over arrow until you highlight the plus. Once it's highlighted, you click minus and it changes that plus to a minus. And you click enter. These are our two real solutions. This quadratic is going to cross the x-axis at negative 1/2 and at negative 3. Those are the answers. X equals negative 1/2. X equals negative 3. Those are the answers. And I'm going to tell you right now, this right here, this gets you an A+ on the quiz. If you only make it to here, you're going to get a B. The only difference is a little bit of calculator work. And it's important to understand, you just took the PSAT. And the math section was hard because you haven't learned a lot of the Algebra 2 yet. And I guarantee you there was a question on this. At least one. Guaranteed.
Yeah, no.
And it's because you needed to use the quadratic formula. And do you think the PSAT is going to have are they going to stop here? Guess what? They're going to go all the way to the end. So if you are a college-bound person, this is your friend. Make sure you can get all the way to the end. Yeah? The quadratic formula? I don't know.
Don't please rewrite and give it to us.
At least give us the